Hello, everyone, and get ready to embark on a cosmic adventure because today we have the fabulous Sharyn with a Y joining us. And if you ever wondered how to blend astrology, breathwork, and a dash of magic into your everyday life, well, Sharyn is here to show you the way. As the founder and curious architect of Beyond the Breath magazine, Sharyn left behind her corporate finance career to embrace her true calling, helping others discover their inner sparkle. Because, be serious, who needs spreadsheets when you can guide people towards self-discovery while chatting about the stars, right? So today we delve into Sharyn's journey from the corporate world to the realm of holistic wellness, and how she created a vibrant community for breathwork practitioners to share their wisdom. She's not just building a magazine, she's cultivating a space where curiosity reigns and connections flourish, kind of like a cosmic coffee house, but without the caffeine jitters. So grab your favorite mug, whether it's filled with tea, with coffee, or just your brightest hopes, and get ready to be inspired, entertained, and maybe even enlightened as we welcome Sharyn with a Y. Hi, Sharyn.
Hello, Michelle. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking, gosh, is that me?
I
That's
believe
an
so.
that's an amazing introduction. Thank you so much. And I must just say before we go too far, I do still love a spreadsheet. So all
Mhm.
of my Word documents are on Excel because I can't manage to operate Word having done years and years in the corporate world of spreadsheets. That's just exactly where I go, even to take notes.
Of
So,
course. I mean, that's really helpful as well. But yeah, let's find out how you help us to remember our true nature and live joyfully in alignment by opening up a deeper conversation about your motivations, your processes, and the unique element of weaving astrology with your work. But to begin
mm.
with your name, Sharyn with a Y evokes a sense of curiosity and exploration. Can you share the story behind this name and what the why represents in this journey? I mean, why for me is like for questions, why am I here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that question has been my companion, I'm going to say, for many years, possibly even from childhood. That innate understanding somewhere that there is more than what I could kind of physically see or touch or even feel. There was this sense of something beyond the senses. Um, and when you go into business, I mean, I still bring my accountancy into my work. Um, I work with breath workers and health practitioners on their business as well. And, one of the things everybody says is find that little hook, find that little thing that makes you different, makes you unique, allows you to stand out. And I was always, whenever I introduce myself, I'm Sharyn with a Y, because that's how we spell it. And I don't mind people calling me Sharon, that's fine. But when people write it and they don't write the Y, I somehow that has some impact on me. So I have to Sharyn with a Y, Sharyn. And it occurred to me in the many, many tellings of it that that is indeed that is indeed what I do. I work with people, or I work with the elements, I work with the breath. Um, I work with kind of purpose-driven business owners, and the thing that brings all of that together, so, whether it's astrology, whether it's breathwork, whether it's business, whether it's the magazine, um, the thing that brings the thing that brings it all together is why. The why that you do it, and the kind of the why we are here and how we can connect more to that. And I'm just slightly distracted, Michelle, by your cat there. I have cat envy because I'm not allowed a cat,
Oh,
but I have cat envy.
She's there for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, send her purrs my way, I accept.
mm,
So yes, that's kind of the that was kind of the story of behind of that was kind of the story of how I became Sharyn with a Y. It was the many, many tellings of it and the underlying belief in the work that I do. You know, I'm doing it apart from the kind of why that it brings me, you know, the kind of reason that I want to enable people to find their own alignment. So it's not a there's no prescription, there's no one true path for anyone. Everybody's why and everybody's reason for either,
mhm,
you know, for listening to the words that we're saying now, for the inner work that they do, for the outer work that they do. You know, there's always a driver, there's always a why, and getting to the root of that um, often uncovers things that we perhaps didn't previously know
mhm.
about ourselves. There's a magic that happens in the aha moment that,
Yeah.
you know, the that there's a I don't know if there's a specific meme, but there's a general kind of meta understanding, if you like, that change takes time. And
Mhm,
I would counter that and say no. The journey to change perhaps takes time, but change happens in an instant when we have that aha moment and we realize our why, we realize the thing that we didn't previously know, then that change just happens in a second. And suddenly we can't unknow something.
mm,
We can't go back.
yeah.
Sharon, I'd just love to ask about your offers because even though I've experienced some breath work and know you through the breath work side of things, wasn't till I had a good look around your website, I was like, wow, about not only the elements that you offer, and Michelle's touched on astrology, but you've got druidry, and particularly of interest to me, probably because I feel like a kindred spirit in some ways, because I was from a corporate background until 18 years ago. I went into the healing world, and I still love a spreadsheet, big time.
Excellent. I'm glad I'm with
Don't you
friends.
worry. But what you're actually offering is this beautiful meld of things like the soul plan, um, and other treasures with the financial aspects. And I think from what I've seen coming from corporate into this area, is that people get a little bit lost between, I'll just tick along a bit, like kind of stay in hobby mode, or I'm going to kick ass and go into business. And um, yeah, what you're offering is a number of selections that help, I guess, guide in a different way without saying, well, we're going to look at small business accounting.
Yeah,
But we're going to look at some things that are, related more to what's in the stars or what could come up for you. So, yeah, I just wanted to, tease out that a little bit because you've got a lot, Sharon, that you can offer. Mm.
yeah, absolutely. And again, going back to that small business approach, I struggled for a lot of years um with the traditional view of you must niche and you must only offer one thing and talk about that one thing all of the time. And it has taken me a long time and quite a journey to accept that I'm multifaceted and I'm neither the accountant. I'll tell you a little story here. So once in my corporate days, I worked for a company that supported the railway. Now, the railway in this country was, I'm in the UK, the railway in this country was government owned for many years. So you can imagine the kind of people that are working in that
Mhm.
industry. And I once said in the office, and it just seemed so normal to me. I was going to, I had my ticket. I was going to Glastonbury Festival, and I was chatting about it with colleagues. And I said, yeah, it's just if I wasn't an accountant, I would be a hippie. And the whole office kind of erupted in some like the juxtaposition between those two things of a hippie accountant or um, the accountant that was a hippie. And I became known for that. And, like every time there was a gift to be given, it was a flower power camper van or something like that encompassed that kind of hippiness of my nature.
Lovely.
And that was really before I went on too much of a journey into being self-employed and all of these, as you said, Michelle, the kind of transition you go through between being corporately successful to being successful in a, a small wellness business or, a small heart-centered business, I would say, or conscious capitalism is what I'm aiming for. Um, and so yes, that it has taken me quite some time to not be um to allow myself to not do it right. And my astrology actually helps me with that massively, because the more I've understood, and this remembering your true nature, this is where it comes from, really, that our soul plan, our astrology, um, they give us a window into our potential. So it's not a force of predestination where, it's written in the stars, therefore you can get it wrong.
Mhm.
It's actually an invitation to say, this is where the energies are at the moment, or this is where the energies were when you were born. What would you like to do with that? And in exploring my own astrology, and I don't want to get too technical here because this is not an astrology that, many people probably won't know anything much about their astrology, but my I have my ascendant, which is how I present to the world. And it sometimes shows your kind of initial personality, your kind of the masks perhaps that you wear.
Mhm.
Um, and that is in Virgo, which is a very practical, very detailed, very earthy and grounded um, sign. And it has, I practice something called natural astrology. So I relate it back
Sorry,
to
we,
the,
We
oh,
we are smiling because
we're Virgo crazy.
you're Virgo people.
we are both
Excellent.
Virgo.
Virgo suns? Virgo suns. Okay. So in natural astrology, what we say is that it's like the little infinitesimal, tiny, minute things that a plant does to grow. That's Virgo. Those little detailed, sorting out the wheat from the chaff, that detail is Virgo. Perfect for an accountant, right? But
Mhm.
the opposite side of Virgo is Pisces. So in there, and because it's my ascendant, I have that as my descendant. So how I relate to the world is very spiritual. It's very ethereal. It's very cosmic and magic,
Mhm.
Michelle, to
Mhm.
pick up on your words. So when I realized this about myself, it doesn't seem like a big aha, right? That's just astrology. But when I realized it, it gave me permission to be both. I didn't have to choose one to the other.
Mhm.
And that was a big breakthrough time for me to allow myself to embrace those both of those sides of my character. And yes, there is a lot on my website. And if, it, there is the there is the wisdom, traditional wisdom maybe, that if you give people too much to choose from, they don't choose anything.
Mhm.
But equally, there's nobody on this earth that is just one thing. We are all multifaceted, and to think that we only have to be one thing, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all.
Multifaceted creators, I would say. And I love how you put it together. First of all, the why, the question why, and also your help for people to find their own why. And then at the office, like Sharyn the hippie, I mean, there's always something who sticks and we take it with us. We find inspiration in those little
Yeah.
things. And as astrology, I mean, of course, there's the woo-woo astrology and the predictions, as you said, which I've done for years, by the way, on the radio. I told people what the day brings when they get their foot out of the bed.
Yeah, the daily sun sign.
But it was like complete nonsense. I mean, it was just a nice
Yeah.
wake-up call for the people to start their day. And I usually have spread some positive things and not negative things.
Yeah.
But also, what you were saying, like we are not just one, and it would be boring if we were just fixed on one thing in our life. There are so many opportunities we could
Yeah.
grab. There are possibilities we can grab, and I think it's also a thing with our intuition to know the right place, the right time, the right way, right? What I was wondering as well, regarding your personal journey towards self-inquiry, self-discovery, were there some key moments or experience that you shaped, that shaped your understanding or your true nature? Were there some breaking points where you thought, well, now I have to change something in my life, or how did it happen?
Yeah, there were lots of them, and they still happen. They still
Mhm.
happen daily. I I say that it's one of my things is that the last thing I want to do before I take my final breath is to have learned something new,
Yeah,
to have gained some new understanding in
yeah.
some way. Understanding is important to me. And I mean, there are lots of them. There are lots of them along the way. Uh, there are there are some that spring to mind in terms of the transition between the corporate and then going into business on my own. And one of them one of them is that I I say that I was reasonably successful in my corporate career, and I was reasonably successful. And what I tended to do was to go into a business and kind of in a finance role. And there would be areas of that business that weren't working properly that needed fixing. It would be very clear in the finances that that was the case. I would bring that to I would bring that to the senior team. We would discuss how it was going to be dealt with, and I would fix it basically. So, and then when something else would break, it would come to me and I would fix it. And that fix it mentality kind of was with me. That's just what I did. Within
Mhm.
every role I had, there was some kind of promotion because almost immediately, because I'd found something, I'd fixed it, I'd made a difference. Those two things, fixing it and making a difference, they were my drivers. Equally, I would get to the end of the fix it bit and the everyday repetition would or the every month repetition would start to wear me down and I would move on. I would look for the next challenge, the next role, the next thing to learn from. And that point came around in one of the businesses that I was in. And I distinctly remember sitting down, just me in the dining room, and having the thought to myself, are you really going to go around this wheel again? Are you really gonna leave somewhere where you know what you're doing, you're comfortable, you fixed it, but there's still more to do. There always is. And you're going to leave and you're going to go somewhere new and you're going to find the problems and you're going to get you're going to do the fixing. Are you really going to go around that wheel again? And just one evening on my own in the dining room, I decided no, I wasn't. I was going to, I was going to scale back my hours. I was going to move into kind of counseling. I was already training to be a counselor, spiritual counselor or coach. I'd done the soul plan. I understood much more about myself from that soul plan journey. And I decided, no, I was going to become a self-employed wellness professional. Um, and so I scaled back my hours. I got frustrated because I didn't have enough hours to work on the business. So I handed my notice in completely and walked away from the business without my own business, really. Um, yeah, don't try that at home, peeps. Make sure you kind of know what your new business is going to be before you walk out on your income. And so I left with pretty much, I had an idea. I'd started working on it. I'd made a little bit of progress. And then I had one of those aha moments where I realized that nobody needed fixing. So the fixer, the fixer had a kind of slap between the eyes of, well, what am I going to do then? I've left my work to fix, for want of a better word, because I now know it's nonsense, but to fix people. I'm going to be a counselor. I'm going to be a coach. Ah. And so began like a really tumultuous journey with self-employment. Um, I was, I think because I'd been reasonably successful in my corporate career, I expected to be reasonably successful in my self-employed business. And it is nothing. There is no similarity between turning up at work and being good at what you do, nevertheless. But there's no comparison between turning up at work and then doing your own business. None at all. And I was not prepared. I absolutely was not prepared. And I had the realization that the things I identified with, being a fixer and making a difference, um, they don't translate. Um, and so began quite a journey, really, that was peppered with a few dark nights of the soul, I have to say, where I felt quite broken at the same time as understanding I didn't need fixing. So holding those two things was well, I didn't know how to, it was one of these up and down kind of journeys because, and I used to jokingly say, nobody needs fixing. Well, except me, of course. The rules don't apply to me. I obviously still need fixing. So that kind of dichotomy again, this kind of different poles of the same thing. Um, the threads are there, right? They keep the threads of our life keep repeating because the rhythm and the patterns of our life, they're those invitations are there for us to explore.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, I that's one of the moments that really stands out to me, and it was absolutely key for me in that, and something that I still bring into my work now. The I had a conversation just last week with somebody that um, was struggling with the idea that in delivering a breath work or in walking with somebody in their breathwork journey, that they might do more harm than good. And it was like, that understanding that I guess I now embody. I mean, I still always think there's more to do, right? But that understanding that, well, actually, you can't get it wrong. You might judge, you might judge that it's, you might judge from your humanness that you haven't done a good, it wasn't a good session, or you could have done better. But who, where, the session that was wrong, the session that you didn't deliver well, the session where you felt like you did more harm than you did good, may well be the session that takes your your breather um or your client, if it's a consultation, it may be the thing that takes somebody to the place where they make their own choice of, well, actually, that I need to do something different now. And I'm not saying rock bottom, it might be. Um, but a very wise teacher once said to me, you don't know the impact that you are going to have. So if you measure yourself by making a difference, you're going to spiral yourself out of control because the thing that you say, the thing that you do, you you can't know the impact that it has because the person that
Mhm.
you're with may not know the impact that it has had, but they will look back in time and may be able to see the difference that you make. Or the difference that you make may be the difference that takes somebody to rock bottom, and you might
Mhm.
judge that as an absolute failure. But as I said recently to someone, failure is just fertilizer.
Mhm.
It's just the thing that we sprinkle on our roots to feed the next growth spurt, to feed the next um, little bit of magic.
The sparkle.
Yeah, the sparkle.
Um,
I really love your words there, Sharon. About failure and fertilizer. Um, that's a really beautiful expression. And there's lots of things there that you've framed in, I think, a really neat way for us from what's been your lens or your view with fixing and making a difference. And that fix it lens is something that, whether we want to call that one of those little crazy character components that we have from
mhm.
the voice, thinking that we have to be fixed, we have to have it all together, we have to have it all right.
Mm,
And yeah, the flow of life and the threads that you talked about and how things come in and out. And um, I know for myself, that place of acceptance is constantly changing. And you can't always just think, well, I'm going to get to a point where this particular thought that recurs ain't going to be there anymore.
no,
Like
no.
it has an end point that I've done the work, so I'm not going to get that coming through anymore.
Yeah, and I think there's probably something generational, or at least there's a time period where so there was a time, I was born toward the end of it, where Pluto was in Virgo as well. And many people with Pluto in Virgo have this kind of perfectionism or drive to them where you need to get it right, and there's a measure of progress, and there's a measure of success. And um, again, it's this when I kind of spent a little bit more time with Pluto and looked at my placement of Pluto and what that meant to me. And it will be different for everybody's charts. This is a kind of a wide generalization. Um, but I realized that my perfectionist tendencies and my were largely driven from that placement in my chart. And at that point, and this is how I use astrology. I don't use astrology to predict the future. It's interesting to know what might be happening in some of the transits, like the Pluto transit. But I use astrology to inform me about me. to, this might be why you are the way you are, Sharyn. This might be your why. And it's not a projection, and it's almost with that understanding, for me anyway, and this will be my makeup as opposed to everyone's, but with that understanding, I'm allowed to relax. And when I do that, the understanding drops into my body. So when I realized that there were, my cosmic invitation effectively was to look at perfection and allow that to fall away and allow myself to fail and for that failure to be classed as fertilizer. Now, bear in mind, I don't by any stretch think I'm the finished article, far from it. I still like to do things right. I still like it to be perfect. I'm still, I still have that. I still have a whole different, I still have a whole different lens that I hold myself up to than I do with anybody that I ever meet. I don't give myself anywhere near amount of, the same amount of latitude as I would give anybody else that was walking the face of the earth. So I still know it's there, but I also know it's there. So because I know it's there, it allows me to, it allows me to, it allows me just to be kinder to myself because I get the clue. I know what it is that drives that. And I can just breathe and just think, yeah, no, I don't have to be perfect, and I don't have to be finished, neither of which will ever happen.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we all try to get there, to try to be perfect. And there's also a kind of fear behind being not good enough,
Yeah.
which a lot of people fight with, including me. I don't exclude myself from there. And like the question, am I ever good enough? I mean, I came to the realization one day that all I have to do is being good enough for me and for my family, for my kids, and that's okay. No matter what the rest is chatting out there, I don't care anymore. But to reach that point, to not caring anymore, is quite difficult. And there comes the fear of failure, not having enough money to live afterwards. A lot of things, main thing not being good enough. And that's why people don't try to go out with their full potentials, like to search, inquire for the why.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
think during COVID time, when we had more time during the lockdowns, a lot of people realized that, oh, I have time now. I have time to look after myself. What did I ever want to do? What didn't I never dare to do? Ask those questions. And they also realized that there are possibilities, there are things that you can create by your own, which is amazing to realize this afterwards. For me, it was a lot the breath who brought me there. I think it's quite a benefit to deal with the question why and to seek alignment with our true selves.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And breath work, I mean, you guys have all experienced it, but breath work for me was, well, one of the first things I ever wrote about it was that it was the key to a door I didn't even know existed. Because somehow breath work opened me up to a part of me that I didn't know existed.
Mhm.
It was through breath work that I came to understand about the level of complex PTSD, for example, that I had walked with from childhood without really knowing. Um, it was it was through breath work that I can take the understanding, the why, and just sit with it, and the breath just allows you to hold it until it becomes part of your body. I've never really been one for exercise. Um, and but somehow breath gives me the same thing as exercise does. So exercise takes us into our body and it's very physical, and it's a relationship between us and our body. Um, and that's what breath does for me. It's taken me. I'm very air. I'm Aquarius sun. I'm very air orientated. I've got a Gemini midheaven, so there's a lot of big air head mental, and I love my mind. It drives me mad when people say, get out of your head and into your heart. And I think, no, no, you need both. You can't get out of one and into the other. And equally, you don't stay in your head and not be anywhere else. But that's what breathwork has done for me. Breathwork has allowed me to have a much more physical relationship with my body. Um, and so I get to take all these understandings and all these kind of moments of magic and the whys, and by working with the breath, they find their place in my body. And at the same time as that, the things that are in my body, like as I said, I didn't really understand that I was walking with complex CP. I can never get them right. PTSD, complex PTSD. I didn't know I was walking with that until I started to explore it. And it was like, oh, that's that then. Oh, that's that then. And it's the reason why I'm so kind of passionate about this multifacetedness and the breath that actually brings it all together is because it's rarely one thing for any one person that is going to make the difference. If I hadn't done my soul plan and realized how disconnected I was from my body and how really I was disconnected from the earth itself, if I hadn't done that and understood that, I would never have been able to receive everything that I've received from the breath
Mhm.
and my relationship with the breath and the things that I've been able to do with the breath. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have had all these little markers along the way that that form the way that you interact with life, or that form the way I interacted with life. And the
I
breath,
always
oh, go
like
on.
to compare it to pieces of puzzle that you discover. Oh, there's a piece. Oh, that fits in
Yeah.
here. There's a piece, and after a while, you start to see the whole picture.
And you can't see it,
Yeah.
can you? Until you start building the little things in. And like if you saw the full picture, you wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be recognize it as you,
Hmm.
because it just came too quickly. But that piecing together, that working a little bit at a time, that's what allows it to drop into your body. And the best thing ever about breath work is that, and I've done quite a few healing modalities, but it comes back to that fixing thing. People come to you to be fixed.
Hmm.
People think there's something wrong with them and they come to you to be fixed. And actually, there isn't a place for that with the breath. The only place you can go when you do breath work, the only place that there is you and the breath. There's no space for me. There's no space for the facilitator. What the facilitator is doing is just creating the room, just creating the container that you're going to travel in order to meet yourself, in order to meet your breath, in order to build that relationship. And so there is no fixing to be done by me. I mean, there isn't any anyway, but there is no fixing, there is no healing. It's just an invitation to remember your true nature. It's an invitation to know who you are and to really own that, to really be that. And yes, this whole thing of enoughness, where did we get that from? Is it this? I know maybe the school system, I don't know, but that whole, even as a small business owner or a heart-centered business owner, that that sense of of somehow accomplishment making us enough, or, achievement making us enough, or accreditations making us enough. It's so many
Yeah.
people just want to be seen,
Mhm.
just want somewhere to go to be. And in the being we are enough. What if all we ever had to do in this life was breathe?
I like
And
that.
there's no purpose. What if there's no purpose beyond that? These are the
Yeah.
things I grapple with. These are my whys. These
Very
what
good wise.
ifs. Yeah, these are the ones that, like,
Mm.
I listened to a podcast recently it was a channeler, and she channeled water. And she said that because we are raising our consciousness, because we are raising our, and it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be too woo-woo, just because we're raising our awareness of who we are and where, how we fit in the planet and how we walk the earth. And that is undeniably raising again, having gone to quite a low. But in raising our awareness, our consciousness, we have changed the energy on the whole planet. And that has changed the energy of the water. And then because the water leaves the planet and goes into the ether and comes back around again, we've changed the we've changed the we've changed the energy in the universe. Can you imagine that? Just by being us, we've changed the energy
Mhm.
in the universe. And
Yeah.
that was like I that absolutely captivated me, because
Mm.
that's actually the work that I stand for, that just remembering who you are, if that was your only why, that was the only thing you did for the rest of your life, you just remembered you're enough and you remembered who you are.
Mhm.
We change worlds with that. We change
Mm.
worlds.
Yeah.
I love how those words you've spoken bring you back to, I think, a place of simplicity on some levels. And it's those layers and complexity of our lives that tend to make everything become sometimes just too big, too much.
Yeah.
And yeah, that enoughness, where does that come from that we've, woven into ourselves? And just reflecting on that, Sharyn, I'm curious, beyond the expressions that you offer, what are you doing on sort of an average Sharyn week for your well-being? Are there some other little things that you like to do that you want to share with us?
Uh,
Like,
that
and you
one
don't have to
goes
have 10 things, okay?
that that one goes straight in there. That one goes straight in there, Michelle. Right? Just yeah. What am I doing? Do you know, it's a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic question. Um, because for years I know what needs to be done and don't do it. Because yeah, I have that. There's always something to do. And I can find it in my chart and talk about it, but there's always something better to do than to take care of myself. There's always more work to do. And my biggest my my the most present thing in my life right now is not working quite as much as I always have, because it's not working. There's a change in the energy, and the 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 kind of pushing through energy, it simply doesn't work for me anymore. It just doesn't. Just not doing is the thing that is most working for me right now. Um, so I have a few things I'm going through at the moment. I had a very I had a very difficult year, let's say, having um I'm going to leave it there. I had a very difficult year, and um my body reacted. My body was not happy with me at all. And I got to the point by the end of every day where my body was too big for my skin. I was so inflamed. I mean, I'm still too puffy, but I'm working through it. So yeah, really, really inflamed. And the two things that I needed to do was to look at my diet and to look at my sleep. So I wasn't sleeping enough, wasn't letting my body repair enough, and I was eating on the run. So two or three things are beginning to become habit for me and in my everyday life. Fasting is one of them. So I I'm fasting right now. I fast for 36 hours and then I eat for 12. And I don't eat constantly for those 12 hours. But that is helping me to rid my body of inflammation because I'm giving my body a rest in order for it to reset and settle. It's not for everyone, and particularly if you're female, we have to take care of our hormones. I'm also of the age where that is less important. But so there are books and things like that that um, I can share in terms of that will support you in the kind of decisions you make as to how you implement it. But I'm doing that. The other thing I'm doing is I'm cutting out what's called ultra processed foods. Um, and it's pretty new, this technology, this kind of understanding of what in the Western world anyway we're doing to our bodies with the food we eat. And I was reasonably healthy, but when I really started to look under the surface, not so much. So those are the things that are occupying me at the moment with my self-care, sleep, which I haven't cracked at all yet, and then my diet and introducing fasting. And I think that all really came about because I did stumble into perimenopause and menopause. I didn't really learn much about it. I still don't know much about it, to be honest. My approach to the menopause was I'm not doing that. No, I'm just not doing it. I'm not having it. I'm going to sail through it. I'm not doing it. Of course, that didn't quite happen. And it has been really helpful it's really been helpful to my menopause journey, which I think is coming to its end, but it's been a really helpful way of me dealing with that. So you'll find me now, I mean, this never used to happen, but you'll find me now in the middle of the day thinking, I'm not, I'm not as clear-headed as I was. I'm not feeling as good as I did. I'm going to make myself a cuppa and watch some TV for half an hour. And I watch TV very passively. That's my way of doing it. So it's part of my way of zoning out. But I zone out. And it's been really helpful, as well as the usual things that I've done. Like I'm aware of my breath. Like, you can't. I don't think I could be a breathwork facilitator if I wasn't aware of my breath. I always do a longer breath work. I always do a longer breath work at least once a week, where I just give myself the time to step out. So I have some traditional well-being things that I do, breath awareness being the main one. But actually, it's these physical things that are most present for me at the moment.
Mhm. It's better to swap away from TV regarding the news nowadays. But let's get away from
Yeah.
TV to magazine. I just want to address, before we wrap up, the magazine Beyond the Breath. It's an
Yeah.
online magazine, actually. What inspired you to create a dedicated space for breathwork facilitators to share their knowledge and experiences through this magazine? How do you plan to connect as well with your audience, especially those who may be new to
Yeah.
breathwork and interested in learning more?
Yeah, so like with most businesses or most endeavors, most ideas, they come from your own need, don't they? So you kind of I I wanted a way to connect with breathwork facilitators um and people who take breathwork, people who have breathwork as adjacent to other things that they do. So I'm a breathwork teacher, so I train people to be facilitators as well. And I noted that not everybody stayed in community after they qualified. They went off and they did their own things and etc. And I wanted a way where even if you weren't, and I'm going to use the inverted commas, but pure breath work, if that wasn't all you were doing, I really wanted to have a place where I could be in community with those people that take the breath into all sorts of different places. Um, and of course, you can do it on social media, and I know this. But similarly to your response, Michelle, to the news, which I agree I don't watch, but I get that same feeling when I go on social media that actually
Yeah.
it kind of draws away from me, it takes away from me, but it's also compelling. It was like I want to, I don't want to, I don't want to spend time there, but I want to spend time with the people that are there. And so I thought, well, where would I like to spend time? How would I like to interact with these people? And slowly over a period of time, the Breathwork magazine kind of birthed, I guess, within me, grew within me. Um, I want to, I know the transformative power of breath, and I wanted there to be a place where people could learn about it, could engage with it from people who had trained and had some knowledge of the breath. And I say that because I guess I do. I guess I stand against the idea that you can spend 10 minutes getting a certificate and suddenly you know
It's
what it
crazy.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anybody that goes on a journey, and I know you guys both have, but anybody that goes on a journey of their into some kind of healing modality, with some kind of healing modality, you can't do that by learning it in a weekend. You
No.
do that by walking the walk, and you have like a professional and personal journey that kind of
Merch.
weaves in and merges,
Hmm.
right? And when you do that, then you know you've got it. When you go away for the weekend and have like a weekend's course, at that you haven't got it at that.
Mm.
It's it's when you actually live it for a little while. So it occurred to me that the more popular that breathwork got, the more people would sell these kind of 2-hour courses that taught you how to facilitate breathwork. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm 5 years in to my journey now, 4 or 5 years into my journey now with breathwork, and I still feel like a beginner, you know.
Hmm.
I still know that my journey with the breath will keep growing. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to create a place where there were people I would want to spend time with, and people I would want to work with. I want to be able to work with people with my kind of cosmic coaching, breath work, with breath work people, because I sincerely think it's one of the things that's going to be the difference to how we engage with the world. And if I struggled with business, and I know business, then I can't imagine that other breathwork facilitators are not struggling with business, and I'd like to be there to help. Um, and the other thing that most people in the wellness profession struggle with is finding their voice or allowing their voice to be heard. And you guys do this with your podcast, right? You give people the opportunity to speak, to explore, to share their voices. And I just felt like I wanted to do that for breathwork facilitators, give them a really safe container, because social media can sometimes not be safe. So a really safe container for them to share their journeys, share their stories, share their knowledge, share their wisdom, share that path that they went on, that windy, windy path that they went on, to be able to share that. And so, yeah, it was kind of a bit like me. It was kind of multifaceted. I wanted a place I wanted to hang out. I wanted to give people a voice. I want to be able to help those people if they want it, in terms of the cosmic business coaching, so that they create the business and they make the impact that is available to them, if you like, the opportunity. Yeah, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do. And I wanted to go to the edges of my comfort zone. I use Mercury, the planet Mercury, and its cycle around the sun to do a project. Mercury is perfect as the planet to travel with for a project. So when part of the things that were happening for me to make life difficult this year came to an end, it perfectly coincided with the start of a Mercury cycle and a Mercury project. So I sat with it for a while. What am I going to do? I was quiet. What am I going to do in this Mercury project? And this has birthed. It's birthed perfectly in this project. The 26th, I think, the 26th of November is the end of the summer season of the project. So it's the end of the busy time of the project. And then I move into what would be an autumn season, where I make sure the processes and the procedures and everything's documented and it can embed into real life at that point. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks. And then we start all over again in December the 6th, with a new project. So yeah, that's a really quick nutshell look around the magazine. I've only really launched it to the school I'm affiliated with, Breathing Space. It's not a breathing space project, it's a breathwork project. So my next step is to go to many other schools and invite them and their students, their alumni, to come along and write articles, share videos, share their stories. I'm already super pleased with the content that we're managing to create and put together. And more than that, I hold a free writers circle for people to come and chat to me once a week about their worries and their concerns, and all about writing and their voice and things. And I've already had articles from probably 80% of the people that have come to the writers circle. They've been able to drop me an article, or they've written to me and said, super inspiring, I'm writing now, I'll let you have it when I'm comfortable with it. So yeah, it's been a passion project that's just turned into a complete joy, and I love it. I love every aspect of it.
And that's completely visible, because you radiate as you are telling this. What an inspiration journey we've had today. And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I did, this little cosmic conversations. And be sure to check Sharyn's work, Beyond the Breath magazine, and connect with her online. We are going to link everything down the video below. And also don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and also comments for the algorithm, please. And remember, as we journey through life, it's important to breathe, to reflect and always strive to remember our true nature and keep shining brightly and explore the wonders the universe has to give. It's really important. Thank you.
Thank you both.